Hi and welcome to episode 2 of BIP, Build in Public. If you haven't watched episode 1, I'm going to share my whole journey on building the minimum viable product of an app called ClickUp to Sheets that lets you sync ClickUp tasks with Google Sheets. It's a Google Sheets extension that I'm going to develop with very little experience on software development, but with the help of AI and my knowledge on ClickUp, I hope I'm going to ship it as fast as possible and then let the developer take care of the iterations and the improvements while I take client feedback and improve it. In this episode, we're going to set up our development environment assisted by AI. Again, as I told you, I don't know much about it, but we're going to get going. And recording this video fast also gives me accountability and lets me move forward very quickly. Here's the app one-pager. So I went into Claude. If you don't know Claude, it's very similar to ChatGPT. And I just pasted the one-pager markdown file that I exported from ClickUp. Then I will ask Claude, here is a product I will make. Tell me which stack I need and how to set up the product, starting with my development environment. I click enter, and then Claude is just going to go through the whole file and understand exactly what my product's about. And it gave me an exact list on how to do everything. It gave me the whole process, but to refine it, I'll ask it, okay, let me get going with development, help me create the environment step by step using the best practices. I click enter, and it's just going to give me the steps to go through to develop that ClickUp to Sheets project. So I'm going to open my terminal and install Node. This is an app called Terminus. It's just for terminal management. So I'm going to copy these commands and install Node. Basically, a terminal lets you talk directly with the heart of your computer, the heart of your machine. What I just told it is make sure that I have Node, and these are both installed, so I'm good. And then I'm going to install Git and verify the installation. Perfect. I have Node, I have NPM, I have Git. Then it tells me to set up a GitHub account, which I've done already, and install VS Code, which I've done already. Then it tells me to install Google Apps Script, ESLint and Prettier. These are just like extra plugins that are optional, but for now I want to keep it minimal, so I'm not going to install them. And I will install Clasp, command line app script project. I go back to my terminal and I copy and paste that command. It should install Clasp. I run into some installation issues that I just fixed. I basically installed it in admin mode in my computer. This is a little bit technical, but basically I have Clasp installed. And now I'm going to log in into Clasp. So it's asking me to authorize Clasp. And all I have to do is to log into my Google account to sync my personal device with Google and be able to start developing. I'll click continue, and then I'll click allow, and it should let me work from now. Logged in, you may close this page. Perfect. Then I have to open a terminal and navigate to where I want to create my project. I need to create an app called ClickUp to Sheets. I'll do mkdir and cd ClickUp to Sheets. I'm the folder where I want to create my app, and I'm just going to go into the path right here and click open in terminal. And from there, all I have to do is paste my command. My commands are pasted, and it just created the folder called ClickUp to Sheets, and we're good to go. Then it tells me to initialize my app script project in the project directory. So I'll just paste this command. Next, Claude told me to enable Google Apps Script API, so I'll make sure it's enabled, and I turn it on. Then my terminal told me to enable the App Script API, so I turned it on in my Google Apps Script settings, and I should be able to keep going. So I'll use the command that Claude gave me, Clasp create type sheets, and it's created a new Google Sheet, and it's going to create a script called ClickUp to Sheets. I just copied and pasted the link. So as you can see, it's created the Google Sheets in this URL, and I pasted it and have it right here. So then the files in subfolder are not accounted for. It's cloned one file, it's cloned the JSON. So if we get right here, we have our app script JSON, and we can get started. To summarize, we've created a folder with a JSON script that will let us sync our Google Apps Script project from my machine, from my computer, to the cloud, to my Google account. And that way, each time I make some updates, it should be able to reflect in app script. And then we have to set up Git in our project. So I'll install Git. It should already be installed. So just to make sure, I'll copy paste the command, but we have a Git repository. And then it tells me to create a git ignore file, which I'll do. I'll just paste it, and it should be created. Then Claude tells me to create a basic project structure, including these files. I'll create these files, and as I'll refine, so I'll trust it and create these files for the sake of this video, and later I'll refine if I need all these files or not. I asked Claude to give me the command to create those files automatically. I put it in the terminal, and then if we go to my Finder, we have all the files we need. Now let's move on to the next steps. I've opened a software called Visual Studio Code, VS Code. It's a reference text editor. It's probably one of the most used text editors when it comes to developing softwares. It's amazing because it lets you install extensions, and also it's connected with something called Git, which basically lets you create branches and versions of your software dynamically through your development process. It's good practice to install Git when you start building a software. I'll just install Git now, and to do so, I will connect my files right here to GitHub. So we just got to GitHub, and I'm going to create a repository called ClickUp to Sheets. And I'll put a simple description like sync your ClickUp tasks to Google Sheets in a snap. I'll put it as private for now. I don't want anyone to see my development progress, and I will not take care of the git ignore and license for now. I'll just create my repository. All I have to do now is connect that repository with Visual Studio Code. So I'll copy that URL and I will set it up on Visual Studio. I'll follow the instructions of Claude as always, and I'll say git remote at origin and then my URL. Here in VS Code, I've opened my terminal, I've pasted my text git remote at origin, and all I have to do now is add a space, add my GitHub URL, and click enter. So I'm done. I've added my remote origin, and then I can just publish my branch. And now there should be a sync between my local environment and GitHub. So if we get back to GitHub, as we can see, everything that was on my laptop, so all of these files, app script, ClickUp service, etc., they are all pasted in a way in GitHub. So they came to GitHub, and all the changes that I've done are reflected here. All right, so back in VS Code, I've added a copyright file and a README file that I'll fill up later. These are best practices to describe what your product does, and also the copyright file is going to be useful later if I want to keep the property of the product and potentially monetize it in the future. Now, Claude recommends me to do a few more things, so I'm gonna follow the steps. It's probably best practices, so I'll set up this ESLint. So I got back to my terminal and I'll copy paste the command. I set up ESLint, then I'll just install ESLint. So as you can see, it's installing something. This is going around. Then it told me to install something called Prettier, which I did, and then to create a Prettier configuration file, which I will just do. Then it tells me to create a basic app script JSON file. So I'll get back to VS Code and go into my files. I have this JSON file set up. I already have this file set up, so I'm good. So I'll just initiate a file and I should be good to go. Then to push my initial project to app script, I'll select Clasp push. So now I have pushed all these files to app script, and this should get me going. Then I can open my project in the app script editor. So I'll just paste this command, Clasp open, and it just opened a tab in my web browser, and here's my app script project called ClickUp to Sheets. So I'm good to go. I can get started, and as you can see, it is synced between my development environment and app script, which is right here. So we have the exact same files, and the ones that are needed, the GS files and the HTML files are here. I have a ready to go environment. So I have app scripts right here, which is my environment in Google, which is basically going to push things to my extension, to my Google Sheets extension. Then I have GitHub, which is the development management, and I'll be able to work on my code, push it to GitHub. And if in the future someone needs to take over that code, like a developer that I work with, they can just access it in the cloud. It's basically synced. So think of GitHub as a Google Drive, but for developers in a way. Then I have my test Google Sheet. And as I start working on this extension, this will be expanded and improved, and I'll be able to start syncing my ClickUp tasks with Google Sheets. So this was episode 2. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we're going to start our development now that we have our dev environment ready to go. Thank you.